Hello everybody, welcome back to another coding tutorial. I know that we missed 2 uploads on the old coding tutorials, which is why this is coming up on an odd day. I don't know what day this is actually going up on, but it is not the day that it would normally go up on. That's for damn certain. We're doing a coding tutorial today on some kind of miscellaneous things that are useful and that we'll probably use in the future, but they don't really merit themselves a full video. We're going to be looking at iteration today, as well as strings, which are 2 things we've actually talked about a lot already, but not at the extent that we should talk about them, which is why we're going to talk about them a little bit more today. So we're going to start off with iteration, and we're going to hop right in here. So as usual, we have our coding screen as we have been having over the past couple of videos. Let's talk about iteration. So I'm just putting in a comment so I can type and you guys can see what I'm typing here. So iteration. What is iteration? So last video we talked about recursion, which is essentially calling the same code, the same function, numerous times to loop through code. And I'll just write that out here. Numerous times to loop through code. That was recursion. Iteration is a little bit different. Iteration is another way to repeat code, but doing it through looping methods instead of recursion. So done through loops there. So both of them are very useful. You will use both of them a lot. I find that iteration is much more used. Much morely used is. There's a sentence there in English that should come out of my mouth, but I have no idea what it is. Iteration is valuable to know, and there's 2 main forms of loops in Python: while loops, which we have used, and for loops, which we have not used. And we're going to talk about for loops today because we already have done while loops. I'm going to do a quick while loop example just so you can kind of refresh and remember. So let's have a variable x equals 10. We're going to say that while x is greater than 0, we're just going to print out x, and then we're also going to do an x minus equals 1. So this is going to go down until we reach 0. And when we run our code, we can run it here. I'll bring this up for you, and you can see it went 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which it makes logical sense that that would have done that, and this while loop works perfectly. So let's talk a little about for loops instead, and I'm just going to comment out our while loop code so that it doesn't continue to run here. Beautiful. Let's talk about for loops. So they're similar to while loops, but they're a bit more complex, and they can be used a little bit in more different ways than while loops can, and that makes them in turn incredibly more useful than while loops at times. And they also make use of a function range, which can it can define a range of numbers to loop over. So let's set up a for loop here. So it's just for, and then this next thing we put in can be anything. I can say for x, I can say for numbers, I can say for characters, it can be any word. I can say Isaac's for Isaac's in range. So we'll do for x in range, and then we'll just say in range 10, okay? And then we'll put our little colon and we'll say print x. So what is this going to do? It's going to, for each x in the range, this is technically 0 to 10, print out x here. So that's pretty good. We'll run this and we will see here shortly that as you can see, we start with 0 and we go up to 9 because the end thing is not inclusive, so 10 will not be said. It'll go 0 to 10 instead because that is 10 numbers. I believe if we do this, does it go to 10? It does not. It's the exact same thing. So it assumes that there's a 0 at the start of range. This is something you just get used to in code. Don't worry too much about it. It'll make sense as time goes on. If we really wanted it to print numbers 1 through 10, then we can change this code ever so slightly to instead be for x in range 1 to 11. because we know that the front is inclusive, the end is exclusive, which is what I tried to say earlier, and that did not come out in my brain. So when we run this code, you will see that we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So pretty good, pretty useful. These are very basic for loops, and we will be using them shortly when we talk about strings. So let's hop right into strings. We're moving right along in this video here, and that is a good positive thing. I'm just going to comment out all of this stuff so that we're not running that code every time we run things. Let's talk about strings. I'm going to start a new segment of comments here so we can talk about strings. What are strings? We've actually done stuff with strings already. We talked about them in the very first video that we did, and I believe we've used them in some other videos as well. Strings in Python are their own data type, as opposed to other languages. If you know C or C++, strings are strictly defined as an array of characters in those languages and in other languages. That's not all that wrong. A string in Python is still literally just an array of characters. It does just have its own data type. So let's define a string as string. Well, we have to get out of this comment here. So let's define the string down here, I suppose, and I'll bring this. We'll kind of do one of these so you guys can see this here. We're gonna define a string as hello world. Okay, and that's our basic string. All you do is put your string in double quotes. If we want a character, obviously we put them in single quotes, as we have talked about in the past, but that's okay. It's always good to get a little refresher. So this string right here is made up of 12 characters, which includes the space and the exclamation point. We can see this right here. The H is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's our 12 characters. So there's ways to manipulate this string to get back certain characters from this. This is called indexing, and it's insanely important to do in coding when working with strings, numbers, arrays, lists. There's all kinds of data types that use indexing. So let's do a couple of examples of indexing here so that you can see exactly what's going on with it. I just need to get myself to my other reference paper that I got here. Okay, we're good. So let's define a character. I'm just going to call it character. I think that's acceptable. And let's define it as the string and then a bracket 0. So what this is saying is, give me the character at index 0 of this string. And if you have any thought as to what this would be, it's just going to be this H. That's our first index, because 0 is always the first number. It's not 1. That's something in coding you just got to get used to. Most languages have 0 as the first value of a string, array. It does not matter. Get used to 0 being the first thing. So if we say that, and then we say character 2, or character 1 per se, is equal to string at 1, then this is going to be E. And we can prove this. We can print out character here. And you know what? We'll print out character, comma, character 1. And this is just going to print out H and E. And we can see that shortly by coming right here and seeing H, E. So pretty straightforward with that indexing. There are some more complex indexing things that you can do here. So let's define character 2. And let's define character 2 as the string at 0 colon. Okay, so what do you think this is going to do? What does this colon mean? The colon actually just means print out the rest of the stuff. Index from 0 onward. So when we do this and print it, it's just going to be hello world, because we're starting at 0 and we're going to print onward. It's pretty straightforward. We'll define character 3 here just to do a couple more examples. We'll define character 3 as the string at position 0 colon 1. So what does this mean? The colon is going to go from 0 all the way to 1 and then not include it. So this is just going to print out simply. Wait, I didn't print it out. I gotta actually print out character 3 in order to see what's going on with this. So when we print out character 3, you will see that it prints out an H because it's going from 0 to 1 and not including it. So then what happens, we'll do character 4 is equal to string from 1 onward. And this is going to be pretty straightforward. When we print this one out, it's just going to go from character 1, which is E, onward to the end of the thing, which will be LO world, which is what happens when a British person says it. And then finally we got character 5, which is going to be string index from 1 to 3. So what is this going to do? It's going to start at E, and then it's going to go to 2, which is going to be an L, and then it's going to go to 3, which is going to be another L, but it's not going to include it because you don't include the end thing of an index or a range. So we will print character 5, and this should just print out everybody's favorite character from Stranger Things, L. There we go. So that's indexing. Pretty straightforward. This is insanely useful when we get into lists and other data types in Python, which we will be in the next couple weeks. You will see that these are insanely useful to know, and indexing is very, very important. And we'll be using it more in this video as well here. So what are some other things we can do with strings? Let's comment all this stuff out so that we're not running this every single time we do stuff. I'm just going to bring this back up here, and then I'm going to create some more space for us on our screen here. Oh, what have I done? I'm in some other thing. Don't pay attention to that. We're going to go down to here. I'm just paying attention on the other screen. There we go. We got a bunch more room. Let's talk about some other functions that we can do with strings. So let's define a new string, str, and we're going to define this string as Tyler sucks, because that is my favorite phrase to do in Python here. Let's manipulate this string in a couple of different ways. Let's print out str.lower. Okay, so what is this going to do? This is going to return our string in all lowercase. So when we print this out, we are going to see Tyler sucks, but the T is no longer capitalized. It's going to be lowercase as well. Pretty useful if you need to lowercase something. Surprisingly, there is also str.upper, which is going to make everything uppercase. We can run this one and see that Tyler sucks is now all in caps. Oh, you can't see this right now. My bad. I'll bring this up for you to here. There you go. You can see that Tyler sucks is all in capital right there. What are some other functions we can do? We can check and see if our string is actually an integer. So let's have str and str2, and we're going to make str2 1001. Okay, and then we're going to print out, free up storage space. Shut up. We're going to print out is digit of, not is digit. It's not is digit. It's str dot is digit. Okay, and then we're going to print out str2 dot is digit, and that is going to tell us whether or not these two things are digits or not. And the first one will be or will not be. The second one will be, which is why we get false and true. Pretty straightforward there. So another really important function is the length function. So let's talk a little bit about the length function. This will tell us the length of our current string. So we can do len of str, and this is going to spew back how long this string is. It's 11 characters. And this len function, we use this all the time here, and we're going to use that shortly. I will be right back because I have to free up some space on my computer. Okay, 31 gigabytes deleted from my trash can later, and we back. So let's do some stuff with for loops using the len function that we just talked about. So let's set up a function here. We're going to say for I in range 0 to the length of our string, which is actually just str. Okay, let's do print the string at I. So what is going on right here? And this has to be str. Let's talk about this. So for I in range 0 to the length of the string. So we know I is going to be a digit because we're talking about the range here. So this is going to go from 0 to 11 because we know that this is the length of the string. And since this is going to go to 11, it's only going to actually go to 10 because we're doing the range function. So it's going to go from 0 to 10 here. We then print out the string indexed from 0 up to 10 because this is going to increment. So all this is really going to do is print out each character of Tyler sucks going down. And the reason you're going, okay, the length is 10 or the length is 11, but this is only going to 10. Why is it printing it out? You're forgetting that 0 is that first number. 0 to 10 is 11 digits. That takes a little bit to get used to, but don't worry, you'll get used to it quite quickly, and it'll be quite okay. So while you're sitting here going, okay, that was really cool, I'm going to burst your bubble a little and say there's actually a really easy way to do this one. Let's just say for I in our string. So Python is smart enough that it's going to go, oh, so for each character in your string, just print out that character. And this is going to literally do exactly the same thing as before. And we cut out working with length and range and the string index. We're just printing out each character of the string. It's pretty straightforward and really not that difficult in the slightest. So those are a couple of cool things you can do with the string. You can't see this again. I'm very sorry. I'm a little bit disorganized today. Let me pull this up for you. You can see that this prints out Tyler Sucks going down. It's pretty straightforward. Nothing to get too confused about. There's nothing too complicated there. If you have questions, remember to ask me in the comments section. Let's do some more funky things with strings and loops. Let's go in. I'm just going to comment out this stuff here. Let's go in and reverse a string. Let's set up a couple functions here to do some stuff for us. So I'm going to just create some space on here. Let's create a reverse function, and we're just going to define this as reverse, and it's going to take in a string. Pretty straightforward. We talked about functions. This should not be too difficult for you guys to understand. If you need a refresher on functions, just go watch the function video. In here, we're going to define a new string, and we're just going to define that string as str, and we're just going to make it an empty string. You can have a string defined that has nothing in it. You just put 2 quotation marks. This is an empty string. And then we're going to add to this string as we go here. So we got the string is equal to nothing. We're going to say for I in our string that we're passing in, we're going to take str, our new string, and we're going to say string is equal to I plus our string. Okay? And just bear with me. We'll walk through this shortly. And then we will return the string here. So what happens if we were to run, say, reverse, we're going to print out the reverse of the string Tyler. Okay? And we're going to run this just so you can see that this does indeed print back. It didn't do the thing that I expected it to do. We returned the initial string. That is exactly what the case is. Let me bring this up for you right here. Just a little bit so you can see our result. We have to return the actual string that we made, not the initial one. So what we do is you can see that it's going to reverse our string and print back Reliot instead of Tyler here. So what is going on here? For I in string. So we're going to take each character in string and do something to it, okay? So we're going to take the T. String is going to be equal to T plus our string. Okay, so we have T plus the empty string. Okay, then we're going to grab the Y. And we're going to go, okay, so T is equal to Y plus T. Okay, so then that turns into Y plus T, so YT. Then we grab the L and we say, okay, so YT is equal to L plus YT. So that's going to be LYT. And you see that this just continues and it reverses our string for us. Why would you ever need this? I don't know. But in case you did, there it is. And you can have it, and it's very, very happy. So if you're not super duper convinced on why we need strings yet, what makes them so important, you're constantly going to be working with strings of characters when you're writing actual official code for a company or a business, or to just do a personal thing. Names of people, addresses, locations, companies, these are all strings, and it's good to manipulate them and be able to do what you need them to do. So one very basic implementation using strings is one actually used in my Discord. So I have a few banned words on the Discord, and we're not going to go over exactly what those words are, but using strings, we can manipulate people's statements to then censor those bad words. And there is actually it's really just one line of code, and I'll show this right now. So we're going to define a function here as censor, and we're going to pass in the string that people say, and then we're going to pass in our banned word, and we're just going to call it banned here. So all this is going to do, let's say return our string, and then dot replace. And this is another string function that we didn't cover. We're going to replace the banned word with, well, let's just say like 5 dashes, okay? And that's all we need. That's all we need to do something really, really neat right here. So let's comment out that print statement right there so it doesn't do anything. So let's censor the str, our string we're passing in. So the string we're going to pass in is going to be, man, I love Isaac, okay? And we're going to censor the word Isaac. I don't want people to say Isaac in my Discord anymore. So we're going to censor Isaac, okay? And we're going to print out the string that is replaced when all is said and done. So when we run this, you're just going to see, man, I love dash, 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 dash. Okay? It's a very basic program. It's one line of code to censor anything that you don't want people to say. It's very useful, and there's a lot of implications that that can do to make that even more useful than you could even think. And that is why censoring is important with strings. Let's also do something a little bit more funky. This will be the last thing we do in this video. Let's basically create a Wheel of Fortune. Okay, not Wheel of Isaac, that's completely different. We're going to create a vowel remover, and this is just going to remove any vowels from a string. It'll be pretty straightforward. So we got to, once again, create a resulting string, and I'm just going to call that res, and we just make that an empty string, because we're going to be adding stuff to it. We'll be adding every character of the string that we're removing vowels from, and then we'll just say, so for I in our string that we pass in, so this will be each character that is passed in. We're then going to have an if statement. We're going to say, so if that I is equal to an A, or that I is equal to an O, or that I is equal to E, or maybe even if that I is equal to I, and finally if that I is equal to U. If any of these are true, then I just want to add a underscore to our resulting word. Okay, and we're just going to say res plus equals this. This is essentially saying res is equal to res plus that. But I use plus equals just because it's a little bit easier and takes less to type. Else we just want to res plus equals I, the character that we already had, because that means that the character is not a vowel. And then we're just going to return res here. And we have to actually spell return correctly, or else it's going to yell at us. Okay, so there we go. That's good. Let's do a vowel remove. So print out vowel remover of the string, man, I love Isaac. Okay, and let's see what happens. There's going to be a bug here, and I want to see if you guys caught it already. So let's do this. So man, I love blank. We already knew that one. And then we have our vowel remove. So it got the A from man, but it didn't get this I right there. It got the O and the E, and it didn't get the I in Isaac, but it did get the 2 A's here. So why did it not get these capital I's? That's because we didn't actually say do capital I's in here. All we did was say lowercase a, o, e, I, and u, which is not the correct, like, it's not the correct order that vowels are ever set in, so that hurt my brain significantly. But what if we wanted to get rid of these uppercase I's in here? Well, we could go in here and we could say, okay, well, we need to add more if things. So, or if I is equal to capital I, and or I is equal to capital A. But why would we do that? Let's just manipulate the string a little bit easier here, and just at the beginning go string dot lower, and just bring all of this stuff to be lowercase already. So then when we run this, it's going to, it did not catch them, str is equal to str.lower. There we go. And now you can see that it has made everything lowercase. If you didn't want the M to be lowercase, then there's other ways to work around it. Like I said, you could just put in a bunch of if statements there to add in a bunch of stuff. Or you can say, you know, if it's the first character, we can say, you know, if, here you go, you ready? Let's see if I can write some code on the spot. If str at 0 dot is upper. That is definitely a function. Fun fact. If that is upper, then res plus equals the initial thing. Okay. We haven't actually defined res yet. We need to define res a little bit higher here. I'm writing some code on the spot. This might not work. Res equals that. Then we want to convert the entire string to be lower. Okay. And then we want to say, okay, string is equal to the string from 1 onward. And then do this. Now, the only problem is, this will work, and the M will be uppercase now. But if that M was a vowel, then this would not work. So say this was the A and I love Isaac. Then that A is still going to show up. So you can see that this code runs, it compiles, it works. But it's only going to work for different scenarios. And that's something that you got to be careful with when you're writing code. Luckily, we got lucky and the M works and it capitalizes and all that good stuff. But this could have gone horribly wrong if we started with a vowel here. If this was just I love Isaac, then this does not work the way that we want it to. So, gotta be a little bit careful. There are ways to make sure. I mean, we can have another if statement in here. So, if string blah, blah, blah is upper and, you know, all of this here as well, then do blah, blah, blah. You could do that, but we don't need to for the sake of this video. If you want to figure that out off camera, leave a comment showing me that you guys figured it out, or join the Discord and request the coding role, and we can talk about some coding in the coding chat. But that's going to do it for today's video. A little bit of a strange one, since we didn't really cover a big topic. We just talked a little bit about strings, a little bit about iteration and for loops. We'll be using both of these a lot in the next couple of videos. We're going to start talking about lists on Sunday, maybe. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a coding video up on Sunday, but we'll be talking about lists most likely in the next video, unless I come up with something else to add in. So hopefully this helped. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for showing your continued support on the coding series. I really do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.